Monet with Tick Life, and today I am filming the lesson planning video. I'm so excited to jump into this topic. I know I presented you guys with the planning checklist about 2 weeks ago, but today is that day for you to pull it out and look at it with me, because we're actually going to look at my weekly lesson plan template, and I'm going to show you how I use both the checklist and the template each week to plan my lessons. But before we get into actually using those tools, we're actually going to talk about what we should consider before we begin our lesson planning process, right? So the first thing that we need to consider when lesson planning is our time. How much time do we have in the classroom with those students? If we are inclusive, meaning we're teaching everything, okay, how much does each subject get? If we're departmentalized or we're in secondary education, how long do I have that group of students before it's time for them to transition to the next subject? So once you know your time frame, you can then consider what will be your structure. What is the structure of your day? When students come in, what are they coming into? When they finish their warm-up, are they going to jump into the activity, or are they going to wait on you for your mini lesson? If you don't do a mini lesson, are they going to jump into your system for completing assignments? It's all up to you, but that is when you consider your structure. And because you know how much time you have with your students, you know what structure is realistic. We never want to overcrowd our lessons, but also keep in mind you will have students that finish early. That's fine, and that's totally different than stuffing your day. Now, I will say your structure does not change. It may change, with depending on the group, or depending on how they're performing, or depending on their comprehension level. It may change when you change grade levels or schools, depending on the requirements of your administration. Yes, it does change, but your structure shouldn't change every day. Why? Because when you consider your classroom management, you want to build routine. And by having structure, you have routine. By having routine, you're going to have classroom management. And so those are the two things that we first want to consider before we start to lesson plan. Next, after we think about our time and we design our structure, the next thing that we want to consider is the 3 important keys. Now, some of you may not use all 3, some of you may use 1, some of you may not use any of them, but today I'm going to let you know about these 3 keys. So of course we know that our instruction is going to be standards based. We're not going to do something because it's cute. We're not going to do something because it's fluffy. We're not going to do it because we're interested in it. We're going to do it because it connects to our standard. Now, if you can create something that's cute, fluffy, and important to you, and it aligns with standards, awesome. But remember, your goal is to educate them, is to inspire them. And you can do that, right, and incorporate who you are in your lesson plans. But we don't want to waste time either, because a lot of us have to consider benchmarks, we have to consider interims, we have to consider state assessments. And so with those things and with your pacing guides, you don't want to waste too much time on the fluff. Okay, so, and for some of us that's easier than others, because kindergarten, yeah, okay, rant over. So the 3 keys that I am talking about outside of your standards is going to be your objective, it's going to be your essential question, and it's going to be your I can statement. Now, these 3 things are awesome to keep in mind, and I had them on my weekly template because I do consider these things before I jump into my activities or the construction of my activities. I need to know the objective. What is my goal as the instructor, or my goal as the teacher? And my goal is going to connect to the standard. The essential question will be posted. The objective will not be posted. If a principal wants to know my objective, they can find it in my lesson plan. They can find it in my teacher binder that's located near my door. But I'm not going to post my objective, because my objective may be worded in a way that may confuse my students. So I don't want to post that, but I do want to keep that in mind, because that is driving my instruction for that day. Your objective can change day by day. However, it probably won't, because we know that we're not going to teach multiplication in one day, right? And so we would use that objective until it has been met. So an objective is really like your goal as the teacher. The essential question will be posted, or at least it is posted in my class. Every classroom that I've had except for one, I did not have to create an essential question or post an essential question. But even when I wasn't required to post the essential question, I find myself doing it. If you've never heard of this term, or if you've never heard of this question, an essential question is basically a question that students will see and it will connect to their curiosity and their inquiry. So for example, if I was a math teacher, which we know I am not, but if I was a math teacher and students were entering into my classroom for the day or for their period, they would come in and they would see the essential question and it will say, how many strategies can I apply in solving a 2-digit multiplication question? Now, that question that they see is going to connect to their skill level. They may say, I don't know how to multiply. Or they may say, I know how to multiply, but I don't really know how to multiply 2-digit numbers. Or even, this is the one that I always get, Miss Brown, I know how to multiply this way, but I've never heard that I can multiply a different way. And so because you're building the anticipation of, oh my God, there's more than one way to do multiplication. There is a way that I'm now going to step up to doing 2 digits. I'm no longer going to be doing 1 digit. And so already you have them eager, or you have them curious to find out what exactly the lesson is going to be. So then you have your I can statement. This is something that I do post because it's something that I use for 2 reasons. Number 1, it presents their goal. Number 2, it builds their confidence. Because when I post my I can statement, I'm basically translating my objective or my goal into a language that they understand. And then once I have the I can statement, I put the criteria for meeting the I can. And once they check off that criteria because they have continually shown me that they know how to do something and then I check it off, then their confidence now grows in that area because they know I can multiply 2-digit numbers using multiple strategies. And I showed Miss Brown this when I did this, this, and this. And so that way you're building communication, you're building trust, you're building confidence, and it's all standards based and it's all within your classroom and it's super easy to do because when you created your lesson plan, you thought about it. And you started with it. It was not a last minute thing that you wanted to incorporate. It was the first thing that was on your mind. Okay? So again, just to reflect, you thought about your time, your structure, your standard. You got your keys out to open those doors for instruction. You had your objective for you. You had your essential question to build on inquiry and their curiosity. And you had your I can statement. Okay? So we've gotten that out the way. So the last thing that I then move into is I pull out those tools that I may have been given by my administration, by my district, or just my handy dandy notebook, meaning my teacher planner that has my grade level standards, my unit 1 given to me by my curriculum coach or given to me by my district, my pacing guide. Maybe I found a book over the summer, or a book was recommended to me by another teacher and they said, hey, you're going to be teaching main idea. This would be an excellent article. So I pull out all of those tools that I'm considering using for that week, and then that way they're at a hand's reach. So when I look at Monday and I say, you know what, we're gonna start going into main idea and supporting details. So I have that book in front of me, or I have that text in front of me. I have my pacing guide so that I can keep in mind, I know my students, they're probably going to need about 2 weeks on this. Let me refer back to my unit 1 pacing guide, and they may say you're only supposed to be doing it for a week, but what else can I manipulate so that I can be student centered? Okay, and so once all of that is laid out, we get into the good part of now creating our lesson plan template. So now we've reached the point in the video where I am going to now show you guys my weekly lesson plan template. I'm going to show you an example of some of the things, how I fill them out, what they look like, what type of language am I using. I will say that I have transitioned into Webb's Depth of Knowledge more so than Bloom's Taxonomy. Either one of those is great language to use. However, everybody has their own preference. So let's move on to the paperwork. Hey you guys, this is Monet. So we're taking a look at the actual weekly lesson plan template that I have available on TPT. The first thing that you'll see in the left corner is basically the information. So if I were going to submit this to my admin or anyone that was curious in regards to my lesson plans, whether it be a grade level chair or someone else within a building, they know that they can find my information here. So I went ahead and I already put my name, and then I also put the first week of school for students. On the side, meaning to the right, I have a box. In the template, it is empty, so you can edit it to best fit you. And I changed this weekly. Now, some things within the box may stay the same. However, it just depends on the pace that I'm going for a particular standard. So the example that I put here is that this week students will begin exploring theme and analyzing character thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. Students will also identify the 4 types of sentences and practice forming complete sentences. So that gives a general overview of the week. When we look, just focusing on Monday, you'll see that I've already created just an example of what it would look like. On Tuesday, you see that this is what it looks like on the actual template. So if you look at Monday, I put unit 1, we're starting unit 1, lesson 1, and then the title. And you're already prompted to do so on the template itself. Standards, I go ahead and I connect the standards that apply so that whoever is observing me, or if they have any questions, or even for myself, if I'm making sure that I've taught standards at the end of the year, I can reflect back on my weekly lesson plans and I can check them off. Now, I would not wait to the end of the year, but again, this is another tool that you can use for that. When I was talking about the essential question, building inquiry, again, these 3 keys are located on the template itself, and it does give you another description. So if you don't remember exactly what I said or how I explained it, it is already typed. This can be erased and replaced with whatever information you choose to put. So the essential question for this was, how can I use details from the text to identify the character's thoughts, feelings, and actions? What strategies can I apply to identify the theme of a story? So again, we want to consider things like Webb's Depth of Knowledge, but we also want to really have an open-ended question. You don't want something where students can just yell an answer and that just be the general end of it. No, we want them to dig a little bit deeper, and if they're going to explain, they have to explain in length. And you will notice that I have more than one essential question. So typically what I would do, considering it's a mini lesson, I would focus on one, or I would post one, and then I would change them. Granted, on Monday or Friday, the day before the day that I'm teaching, I would write all the essential questions up, or I would type all the essentials questions, so that way I can just post them and use them as needed. When we look at objectives, again, I have more than one. This is for me, this is not for students, but this is probably what your admin will look for. Students will be able to determine a theme of a story from details in the text. Students will be able to describe in depth a character's thoughts, feelings, words, and actions by drawing on the specific details in the text. So you see the language is different. On the next page, you'll see an example of the I can statement. Again, this is what students will see. And then again, I will also put criteria. I have not put the criteria on here. I just have the I can statement. So this one says, I can identify characters' thoughts, feelings, words, and actions by pulling details from the text. I can form different types of sentences that are clear and meaningful. And again, they would have how to satisfy or how to know that they can definitely do those skills. It does sound a bit repetitive. Even when I was typing it, I was like, why am I saying the same thing over and over and over? This is the best preparation that you can do. Yes, it's repetitive, but again, you don't have to think about this every day or every morning when you're writing your messages on your board. It's already thought about. Once you do it on Monday, if you're going to do the exact same thing on Tuesday, copy and paste. So now we're looking at the lesson outline. Another word for lesson outline would be the structure. When you see these colors, those are indicating my personal structure. This is a editable Word document. So if my structure isn't necessarily your structure, go ahead and change it. I do like to have it in color so that it stands out and that I can quickly identify what I'm looking for. So let's say I'm doing my lesson and I have my lesson plan folder at the top of my class. I can quickly open it, look for that particular part of my structure or my outline and see what I need to say or do or pull. Now, granted, I pull out my stuff again in the morning or the day before, but just in case, I can quickly refer to what I'm looking for. So on my outline, the first thing I have is warm up. While I'm shaking hands and greeting students as they enter, or while I am pulling things out for small groups, or even talking to a parent, this is what students are doing. And they should be able to do this independently and also be able to participate in when we check it. I always check the morning warm up. It just get their minds going and get them excited about what we're jumping into for the day. So I wrote a description. Students will complete day 1 grammar of their grammar book. The title is 4 types of sentences. So here I've identified that I need to pull their grammar books. They're going to do day 1 and the name is 4 types of sentences. Again, I have had administrators go through my binder and they have specifically looked for a title. Like they want to know that what I said we're doing is actually what we're doing. Maybe you may not have one like that, and I don't know. I'm in a new school, so hey. Next, transitioning from warm up, we go into our class meeting. I do not call this morning meeting because I'm departmentalized, and I may not have them in the morning. They may come to me in the afternoon, so I just put class meeting. Then I outline what we're going to discuss. I don't write a script, but I do put the things that I want to make sure that I mention and discuss during our time. So the first thing we're going to do, or the first thing I'm going to do, is welcome them in. I might crack a joke, who knows, but I'm definitely going to get their spirits high. I then review the agenda with them. I let them know, hey, today we're going to talk about digging into the character as if they're your best friend. Raise your hand and tell me, who's your best friend? How do you know they're your best friend? What did they do to make them special? And it gets their mind going. I know we're going to be talking about characters, thoughts, feelings, and actions they don't know yet, right? And during this agenda time, we look at the I can statement and we say the answer to question together. Then lastly, I might do an icebreaker depending on time. But I try to do icebreakers that don't take a lot of time, but again, it builds that community and it gets them moving and active and awake. For my mini lesson, I do put quite a bit of information because I want to be able to open this or refer back to this and know exactly what I'm writing on the board. So question, how do you get to know your best friend? I do have a PowerPoint that I will be presenting, so this let me know, hey, you want to make sure this is up and ready to be presented. I share the standard vocabulary and strategy. So before we get into the skill, I always have a slide with the standard. I always introduce our vocabulary that we're going to be working on and the strategy that they're going to be learning. So if, let's say, I did not have a PowerPoint ready, I can again put those details here. And when I create it, I can refer back to the things that I know I need to have on it, and it keeps me organized. And as you see on this side, It's just the blank template, but it does give you guidance on what you should put if you were to do the same structure that I have for my classroom. After the mini lesson, I have my activity. Some of you may have already noticed that I have the time there. Why do I do that? This time is not accurate. This is my time from my last year's schedule. But I kept it here because I want to make the best of my time. We already know that the first thing we did was we identified how much time we have with each group of students or how much time we have for each subject. I put the times here, number one, because I have a time checker, meaning it's somebody's job in the classroom to time check me. I quickly write that time on the board. They have a clock. They hold me accountable. This helps me with time management. Students will read The Talking Egg. After reading, students will pair up to complete Inside Out. So here I know what text I need to have. I know what activity I need to have. It says students will share their answers with the class. So this also identifies how I'm going to wrap up the activity. The activity should not take long. I love this book or this story. If you have not read The Talking Egg, it's a spin on Cinderella. It's awesome. The students really love it. It has personification. It has dialogue. It really jumps into those things, and it's very colorful. It is a picture book. So if you do not know what this is, it's awesome, and you can really dig into character traits because there are 4 main characters, and so you can really dig into them. If you want more information, ask me down below. So I have the activity. Now I have my closing. Students will share their answers with the class, and again, they're right here. Exit ticket. How will I know that students comprehended what they just learned, or how do I know what they took away from the mini lesson? My exit ticket. So given an excerpt from The Talking Egg, students will identify Auntie Anne's thoughts, feelings, actions, and words. So by the end of the activity and the end of that PowerPoint, students will be able to identify those things. They will know the skills and the strategies to pull those things from an excerpt. So they're not going to go through the entire book. I'm not going to retype the entire book. I'm going to pull an excerpt from this character, and they're going to analyze it, and they're going to be able to identify it. And so as you see, these are 4 things. So thoughts, feelings, actions, words. So this exit ticket would be worth 100. Each trait would be worth 25, and then I would have a minimum that they could have. I generally do 85%. If a student is less than 85%, they don't know it. They don't know it. If they get 100, they're very strong in it. I know I need to amp it up. But if they are less than 85, I definitely need to meet with them. I don't wait for them to make 70s and 60s and zeros. We don't want to do that. So where it says assessment, I can go ahead and put exit ticket if there is something else that needs to be assessed that day. Like I told you guys in a prior video, I do give post and pre-assessments. So if that was on my agenda for the day, of course we know that's not going to be taught because it's a pre-assessment. I want to know what they already know. So it would be something that I would give, and I would say, hey you guys, so we're transitioning out of our lesson for today, but there is something I really want to do with you guys, and I'm so excited to see what do you really know about this. So I'm going to hand this to you. I'm going to give you a little bit of time, or I'm going to give you 15 minutes. I want you to do your best. This is not for a grade, but I really want to know, what do you know about figurative language? And so we would do that pre-assessment. I would take that data to plan for the next week. I would use that data to form my groups and to form my centers. And so, yeah, that's how that will work. Next, you see homework. It says fix the sentence and Cursive 101 day 1. So both of these are packets, are books that I'm putting together now. And as you see, it goes day by day. I don't have my students every day. I am departmentalized. I see my students on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. With that, I want to make sure that I'm very purposeful with my homework assignments, and that when they come to see me, they know to turn it in, and I know exactly what to look for and grade. Now, the next part is very key, and it's something that I did not always do, but I found to be very helpful. So after homework, after we have identified the structure, we're now gonna go into the reflection part. So it says, If a student completes the assignment early or demonstrates mastery comprehension, they will complete my best friend Rachel. So they're going to turn their attention from Auntie Anne and they're going to focus on character Rachel. And so we're not going to let somebody who has exemplified that they know exactly how to do this just sit and play with their fingers. No, we're going to turn up the heat on them and we're going to see if they can do it again. And that's how we really know, hey, this student can be a peer teacher. And I do allow students to do that. I also am very mindful about STEAM integration and SEL integration. We do have standards for SEL, and so I like to put them here on how I'm integrating them into the lesson. This is actually the part where I stop. So everything else gives you an example, but at this point I left it blank. When we look at reflection, this is important. And I gave you some questions to guide your reflection. Again, this is editable, so if you do not want to do this, you can cut it out. If you do want to do this and these are not the questions you want to ask, you can change them. But when I reflect on a lesson, these are the questions that I ask and I want to be able to answer. So for my reflection, it says, what will be the misconception? So I need to already think, how will students become confused? And because I know what may confuse them, I can already be proactive and coming up with a solution for those students that may get stuck. Next, how will I support struggling students? You have a bullet to name those struggling students. You have a bullet for the intervention or remediation that you're going to provide. And then you have a bullet for additional notes. I do this because principals want to know that you're differentiating instruction, but they also want to know that you're mindful of your audience. They want to know that you're mindful of your students. And I do this for every single class. I've been departmentalized before. It does take time, but again, it's very helpful because you know exactly who you need to be looking at and who you need to be working with when you're walking around the classroom and pulling your groups. Next, it says, how will I enrich the lesson for the proficient students? So they're on level or they're really close, or they're those bubble students who are just right on the cuff. They're not struggling, but they don't quite, they're not advanced or they're not at mastery level. So how will I enrich? How will I pull them in? So I will name those students again. I will put how I plan to enrich the lesson for them, and then I will write additional notes. Next, it says, how will I enrich the lesson for advanced students? And I always come up with a way to challenge them because they already think they know it. They already think they are the smartest kid in class. So I'm going to put them to work. And so you would again put their names, how you plan to use their knowledge, and then additional notes. So this is my weekly lesson plan template. I hope that I explained it very well. If you have any questions about it, leave it in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at my weekly lesson plan template, and I hope that my structure was really clear for you. If you should have any questions about anything on my template, please ask them in the comment section below. It is available for free in my TPT store. So I want to wrap up this video by just expressing to you that once I have thought about all of those things before going to the paper, and once I'm done with the paper, my mind goes into now what do I need to create. And so if you were to look in my lesson plan and my lesson planner for this school year, you will know that I created inserts. So that's when I would go to that insert where it says to do, create, copy, cut. I would then go to that and I would create my weekly list of things to do. So that way I am organized and I know I can check it off as it's being done. We want to incorporate anchor charts because we know that those anchor charts are great visuals and great reminders for students, so whenever they get stuck, they can independently take a look at that anchor chart and guide themselves back on the right track. We know that on my lesson planning checklist, that you have those things on there so that you can also keep that in mind while you're creating or even after. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Again, if you have any questions about anything mentioned in this video, please leave them in the comment section below. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that now. It's about time, don't you think? And also give me a thumbs up if you like today's video. If I get a lot of videos, I know that I need to continue to talk about lesson planning, because let's face it, lesson planning is not going away, and it's becoming a requirement that some of us don't know coming straight out of college. We don't know our first year teaching, and we don't know as we transition into different districts and schools. So again, I don't mind filming another lesson planning video if there is something that was just very unclear or you need more examples of. So have a great day. I can't wait to see you guys soon. Bye. Tick on.